Hello, my name is Roshan Rajesh and a very warm welcome. This is
Dhrudaspuri.
We are the founders of Synapse, the strategy and data analytics club that falls under the School of Business Management at Christ University, Bangalore Road campus.
The core philosophy of the club is to provide value to each and every individual who participates with the environment of the club, be it the host of the event, be it the members of the club or the university. And for the same, we organize a plethora of events all across the year.
So I hope you enjoy your experience. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is DeepDive, a podcast initiative of Synapse from Christ University Banagata Road campus. This is a pilot episode where we have invited Mr. Deepak Nanwani, the head of revenue and operations at Yuma Energy. Yuma is the exclusive battery swapping partner for Yuru. We are your hosts for today, Dhaval Vyas
and Harsh More. The podcast is divided into two segments. The first segment will be walking through his journey in IIT and IIM.
And in the second segment, we will be talking about the EV sector and its future. Do watch till the end as he gives some very interesting philosophies and advice that you won't be able to find in books. Hope you enjoy it.
So, hi sir, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Firstly, thank you for coming to the podcast. It's really our honor to host you today.
It's a pleasure.
So, sir, basically, you have had an impressive career till now. But can we take a step back and go back to your college days at IIT Guwahati and IIM Bangalore? What one piece of advice or what would you like to tell about the audience?
I think IIT was my first step out of home. I was honestly not prepared for it when I went there. Two things that stood out was which I really liked was one was the kind of people, the kind of some of them came from very humble backgrounds, very very different people. Just being surrounded by them gave a lot of opportunity to learn from them, to be inspired by them. And the second was it got into me some level of discipline. Because when you're living in a hostel, when you're living with so many people around you, you have so many things to do on your own, first time out of home, it gives you a sense of what do you have to do when and how do you have to do it. You're pretty much responsible for all of your actions. And those are two things that really like me about it.
Amazing. So, sir, you have experienced both IITs and IIMs. So, what do you think, what do these institutions do to contribute to the personal and the professional growth of an individual?
I would say they give you a tremendous platform from two perspectives primarily. One is, of course, as I said, they give you a very strong network,
right.
Not just of the people or the peers who study with you, but also of 50 years, 60-year-old long history that these institutions have. So you get a strong alum network also. This alum network gives you access to a lot of information, and that information gives you access to a lot of opportunities.
Right.
So when you get to these institutions, the kind of platform they are providing just by being a part of this cohort or this group, you get a head start in your professional growth. Personally, of course, when you with so many smart people around you, if you're a sponge, you'll learn from them, you'll grow yourself. But from a professional perspective also, you get a head start. What I want to discount here is, do people not get that head start when they're not in these institutions? That's not the case. 20 years back, probably that access to information and that access to opportunities was limited through these networks.
Right.
And therefore, being a part of these network, the kind of head start you got was massive. The kind of step up that you got was massive. Today, that's not true. Today, that information is freely available. Today, those opportunities are available outside of those close-knit networks. You have so many platforms where you can reach out to people, where you can reach out to companies, where you can grow, you can reach out to individuals for personal growth, you can get mentors in personal professional life. So that difference between being an IIT versus not being there has reduced last year.
Right. Sir, while going through your LinkedIn, I saw that you have taken a lot of initiatives in your college days, and in the colleges, doing extracurricular stuff has become the new normal. So being a student, a lot of students, it's very difficult for them to basically manage their extracurriculars and their curriculars. So what piece of advice would you like to give them?
I wouldn't say I was good at both. I would say I did well. I did okay. I think two things. So when I went in, my focus was absolutely, we'd gone in, focused on the academics, so to study pretty much 8-9 hours a day. That's how I went in. And that was not the kind of person I was. So that first 2 months, that fake persona that I was trying to create of myself, that went away. And then eventually I realized that because this is not who I am, I have to go to participate in extracurricular activities, I have to organize fests, I have to do this, I have to do that. I think two things helped me there. One was I found a group of like-minded people who were also doing this. Right? When you become a part of this kind of groups, you learn from each other. Okay, so वो क्या कर रहा है, ये person क्या कर रहा है, अच्छा अभी पढ़ना है, अभी नहीं करना है, चलो practice करे चलता हूँ, चलो ये करते हैं. That becomes you kind of do it together, so that gives you a lot of learning and it helps you a lot. The second thing is just inherently discipline. As I said, you need to have that in your life. If you don't have it, you'll probably not excel at anything. You need to know what to do well. You need to carve out time for each of these things in your life without compromising on some of the bare necessities. Like you need to sleep on time, you need to eat on time, you need to keep good physical and mental health. Keep these necessary things there and then carve out time for all. So be very disciplined.
Sure. Sir, so basically we all make mistakes in our lives. So basically looking back to your days, what one piece of thing you feel that you would have done differently, it would have made a great point in your life.
It will sound funny, but I wish I would have slept more. I think when you get into first time out of school, when you get into a college, there's so many things that people have to do. You did so many things. And back in those days, it was not even. It was not as if what it is today. YouTube wasn't there.
Right.
Just as an example. But so you used to download movies from internet. You have all of those movies of games. You have this newfound freedom in a hostel. You have music bands, sports. You can do anything and everything that you can imagine.
Right.
The first thing that gets compromised is pretty much your sleep and your mental well-being consequently, and your physical well-being consequently. Some of the best performing people, some of the high-performing people that I always saw never compromise on the sleep. So it might sound very frivolous, or it might sound very trivial, but if I could go back, I would probably sleep. I used to compromise a lot of my sleep, used to be tired all the time, and could have done a lot more if I...
Right. So you have worked in amazing companies like Amazon, Uber, Meesho, and now Yuma. So how has IIT and IIM, basically the experience of being in IIT and IIM, has helped you or maybe pushed you to the next level to take leading positions in such companies?
I think IIT IIMs gave you, as I said earlier, they give you a very strong peer group who you study with. When you spend time with these people, the one thing that you get to learn is, which I personally hold very close to my heart, is first principles thinking. Any institute, the kind of education that they'll provide you, it might or might not be exactly relevant in the future. I learned accounts, I learned operations, I learned supply chain, I learned XYZ, others, all the subjects. But do I use all of them today? No. But what I do use is some of the commonsensical first principles that these things taught. And you continuously practice all of these when you are with your kid, when you do projects, when you interact with them, when you talk about world affairs, when you discuss things with them. You're always thinking, very, very basic first principle approach. I think that's what helps. The second thing which I feel these institutes instilled in you is integrity.
Right.
That's very important. As a leader, when you grow, if you don't have integrity, you will never be able to inspire your team to follow you. And that is your first colossal failure as a leader. I think that's where these institutes help a lot.
Right. So being students, not everyone, because of the competition, not everyone gets to get into IIM or IITs. So a student coming from any tier 3 city, what advice would you give him, or what differently he could do in his college life to to get to that position?
Learn.
Yeah.
I think the access to information, knowledge, whether it's formal or it's informal, is so easy today. It's speed. There's this great leveling that has happened across over the last 6 to 8 years with the digitalization. Everyone has smartphones. Everyone has access to some of these platforms. There's a lot of good quality content that's available. So if you are, I think, getting into these institutes is not, as I said, it's not the be-all and end-all of it.
Right.
The kind of head start that you could get because of these institutes, the kind of platform that you could get from these institutes, let's say 20 years back, is not the same. And whatever gap is there, you can eventually bridge it if you're hardworking and you go out and start learning.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people fail because you don't get into it, they fall back, they kind of become demotivated, rejected, or whatever. And then when that learning stops, that's when growth stops.
Right. So, sir, basically, what one piece of advice would you like to give to the to the viewers who are aspiring entrepreneurs and our students?
I think when I was an entrepreneur, there are a few things that really helped me, which have stayed with me so far. One was this ability to handle uncertainty and that ability to handle pressure.
Right.
Those two things, I think, will really help you throughout the professional growth. There will be situations where either because of the outputs that you have to achieve or because of workplace pressures, personal professional conflicts, personal life professional life conflicts, you will be under a lot of stress. Not losing your cool, not losing your grip is supremely important. I think as an entrepreneur, those are the two lessons I learned during my entrepreneurship journey. It wasn't a very successful journey, but those are the two personal things I've done. I think that's what I would say students today should focus on. How can you handle pressure? How can you not lose it? How can you stay calm, composed, absorb the situation, absorb all the inputs, and then react?
Sure.
Hello, sir. So we'll start off with the industry segment now. So many of us know about software as a service, but what you at Yuma are providing is battery as a service. So can you speak a bit about that concept?
Let's take ICE vehicles or internal combustion engine. When you buy a scooter,
Okay.
do you pay for petrol upfront for the next 5 years? You don't.
You know.
Up scooter leather and you just drive it, and then as and when you use it, you pay.
Yeah.
Somehow that concept gets a little distorted with EVs because each EV comes with a battery.
Yeah.
Technically, the charging cost of that battery you will pay as and when you charge, but the cost of that battery you are paying upfront.
Yeah.
Which is why there's that major difference between a petrol powered or an internal combustion engine vehicle and an electric vehicle. The upfront cost of the battery just loads up upfront in your cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Battery as a service as a concept came in when people started figuring or people started thinking, how can we reduce this quantum of difference between an ICE vehicle and an EV vehicle and make it easy for ownership. So instead of giving you battery upfront, let me provide you battery on a pay per use basis.
Okay.
Till now, there are two parts to battery ownership. There's of course the battery asset itself, because that itself costs something, and there's a cost of using it, which is electricity and repair and maintenance. Electricity repair and maintenance is one thing that you will anyways pay.
Yeah.
The upfront cost that you're paying for the battery, that needs to become, think of it as a pay per use model. That in essence is what you call battery as a service.
Okay, sir. So this reminds me, I saw Nikhil Kamat's podcast. I think the CEO of Aether had come, and he spoke about when Aether, for temporarily they launched a service in which they were subscription model for the battery, but it didn't work. The reason being, he said that vehicles for India is an emotional purchase, so we want to own it. So how are you combating that? Because at the end, like you said, that's why you introduced the paper this. But for India, for a lot of people still, especially older generation, they want to own it, because if you're paying 1 lakh, 2 lakh, you don't want to keep on paying a subscription. So how are you tackling that?
I think what he said was absolutely 100% true at that time.
Okay.
Not today.
Okay.
I think we are evolving in terms of how to look at asset ownership today. And when you look at vehicles, if you take for example Gogoro, right? It has done so well in Taiwan. It has done so well in Southeast Asia. And the reason for that is because people have given up battery ownership and they're saying we will take battery as a subscription.
Okay.
Right. Would the same concept apply in India? Today, it is actually happening.
Mhm.
When you look at a number of people who are using EV vehicles for commercial use cases,
Mhm.
that's where battery as a service actually makes sense, or battery swapping makes sense, right?
Mhm.
There, a lot of people are okay with not owning the battery. They're like, I'll own the vehicle.
Yeah.
I'll get the battery swapped, or I'll take the battery on lease. Why? Because it reduces my upfront cost. I can get into the industry faster. I can get into the earning mode faster. Recently, MG launched its vehicle, Windsor,
Okay.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
EV,
Yeah.
with a BaaS subscription model. I don't remember, but there was one more vehicle that came in recently with a BaaS subscription. All of these vehicles are now coming in, where BaaS is actually becoming a reality.
Mhm.
And it is actually relevant for people who want to say that, okay, I'll not pay 3, 4, 5 lakh rupees upfront for a battery because I won't even use it that much.
Mhm.
Why not pay only a small amount basis my usage over a period of time? It's think of it as buying a home with full down payment versus taking it on a loan. You keep paying small amounts over a period of time.
Yeah. So, sir, like, the way that you said, I think it's similar. I think the reason it's picking up is because of young India, because right now we see in a change in the spending pattern that people are going on EMIs
Hmm.
rather than, giving it upfront. So,
Hmm.
like, as you see, most of the iPhones are also bought on EMI. So, I think do you think this is also a reason why now the shift is happening? Because people are more comfortable with this kind of payments in everything, at least the youngsters.
I would say people are getting comfortable with this concept.
Mhm.
Are we there yet? No. If you look at all the EVs that are sold in India, most of them are sold on EMIs. Most of them are still sold with the battery upfront. Most of them. But there are still commercial vehicles that are now coming in with battery swapping enabled, right?
Yeah.
And people are going out there either renting those vehicles or buying those vehicles, and they're okay with making sure getting into that industry and saying, okay, I'll pay for a subscription over a period of time for the battery because I don't want to get it. So it's a concept that's picking up slowly and gradually. Are we there yet? No. But will we see probably a multifold growth over the next 5 years? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. So right now, the government is heavily, I would say, promoting the EV sector, be it
Yes.
two-wheelers, four-wheelers,
Yes.
with incentives also.
Yes.
So do you feel it's overcrowded now? Because like almost there's so many, we know Ather is there, Ola is there, a few other players are coming up who are eating basically mostly Ola's market share. But there are lots of smaller players now that are coming. So do you feel it's becoming overcrowded?
Oh, it's hard to say that it's overcrowded.
Mhm.
I would actually say it's good for the customer. See, ultimately, the good products or the good quality products will survive.
Yeah.
So if there are new companies that are coming in and manufacturing good quality products, why not? I mean, Ola, for that matter, for 2 years back, 3 years back, was a startup only in the EV space at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Had been doing mobility for a long time, great. But in the electric vehicle space, it was a startup. It came in, it created a good quality product, people liked it, people are using it. Now, when you look at some of these other companies, who knows the next Ola or an Ather might be coming from one of these. So yes, there is overcrowding at the moment. I wouldn't say overcrowding. There's too many players here who are trying their hand at it. But ultimately, a good quality product is what is going to survive. So is it happening purely because of government incentive? No. I think it is happening also because there's a demand for all of these products. कोई भी कंपनी खोल के नहीं बैठा है उसका प्रोडक्ट नहीं बिक रहा
Yeah,
तो राइट
absolutely.
people are building products and they're selling it. They might not be selling thousands in a month. They're selling probably few dozens in a month, but they're selling it.
Mhm.
Some of these will do well. Will probably start getting into hundreds a month and then into thousands a month. That is the evolution we will see.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So there are a few talks, although not immediately, but like that the government will be reducing its incentives,
Mm.
at least the tax benefit, because now a good shift is happening in the consumer side of it. So how do you think this will affect the buyers who are paying for it as well as the businesses who are selling these products?
Uh, First, you need to understand why is this happening. One is the battery prices have gone down, so the difference that used to exist between an ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine ICE vehicle, and an EV, say 2 years ago versus now, is lower. So the difference is reduced because the battery prices. I said the upfront cost of the battery is the main thing that you're paying for
Yeah.
because that has reduced the difference has reduced, and which is why the government is very confident that now even with reduced incentive, the same level of growth can continue to happen. It's not as if the subsidies have completely gone away.
Yeah,
The incentives have completely gone away. The government is now also incentivizing manufacturing. It is also incentivizing cell production. All of those things are there. And then, of course, EV buyers are also getting some level of incentives and subsidies. Uh, I definitely feel over the next 2 to 3 years, these subsidies will go down further, probably to zero.
Okay.
Will that slow down the growth? No.
Okay.
Because people are still, at least for some segments, where there is genuinely a fitment of an EV use case.
Hmm.
There, people will see, okay, let's go for EVs because it makes long-term sense from a total cost of ownership perspective. And incentives, anyways, will play a very small part in that. It'll be today if I buy a vehicle, a 10,000 rupee vehicle, and I know I have to own it over 5 years, 10,000 is not a make or break case.
Yeah.
It's not a make or break decision variable. It will become a decision variable when it was say 50,000 or it was 40,000, which was 2 years back.
Mm-hmm.
But अब नहीं है because the cost of the vehicle has come down. 10,000 also, if I get an incentive, I'm okay with it because I know over the period of 5 years I'll be able to extract value out of this vehicle.
Yeah.
So I genuinely feel these incentives they'll keep going down. One use case that will definitely benefit is BAS.
Okay.
Because if incentives go away, there's all the more reason to not pay for that battery upfront.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right? Right now you're getting 10, 12,000, whatever you're getting.
Yeah.
If you don't get that, you'll actually be more inclined ki now why do I even pay for this? Let me take battery as a service.
Right.
So I think BAS will infiltrate the market a lot more.
Okay. So, sir, speaking about that, what you said, the currently around 50 to 60% of the cost of a EV two-wheeler is mostly from the battery and control systems. And it's projected now that in the next 5 to 10 years it'll come down to 10-20% range. So what impact, like what kind of innovations are we looking at, and what kind of impact do you think it'll have on the bottom line of all these businesses?
I don't think bottom line is going to get. I mean, it's going to be, of course, a crunch. Innovative businesses, good products, as I said, will survive. Will it cause an impact on the? It will cause definitely demand shocks in the short term. The one place where I think a lot of innovation is happening is battery technology. We started with the original batteries used to be lead acid.
Yeah.
Which you used to use in inverters, though used to be used in e-rickshaws and all the other vehicles also. Then we moved to lithium ion. Lithium ion had 2 or 3 chemistries. The major dominating chemistry was NMC, nickel, manganese, cobalt. But because cobalt is more expensive, nickel is very expensive, so you started getting into LFP, lithium ferrous phosphate, right? And when you start getting into that, the cost is cheaper. The batteries last longer. They're more fire safe, or fire safety wise, they're better. There are sodium ion batteries that are coming in. They're further cheaper, less energy dense, so they can be used in larger applications. There are solid state batteries that are being developed, which can charge faster, very compact, very high energy density, and can last long. So I think a lot of these innovations will start now catering to specific use cases. The kind of battery that a two-wheeler might need will be very different from a battery that a bus might need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So different chemistries will start catering to different use cases.
Okay. So right now we mentioned the different kinds of batteries. So do you feel like, more batteries are going to be coming in, types of batteries, or like which batteries do you think will be, most in demand? Of course, lithium ion because it's used in scooters.
Lithium ion is a very general
Yeah.
term. Within lithium ion, there are multiple chemistries. There's NAC, there's NMC.
So can you speak a bit about
there is
it?
LFP. So I think the chemistry use case depends on. So just to give you 2 examples. So NMC, for example, is very, very highly energy dense.
Okay.
So to get the same amount of kilowatt hours, you need less weight and less size. LFP, on the other hand, is slightly larger. So 2 kilowatt hour battery NMC will probably be 13 kgs, 14 kgs. But 2 kilowatt hour LFP pack will be 21 kgs.
Okay.
Right. So when you look at these 2 use cases, probably in a car, an LFP might make sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of space, you can put in a heavy battery and you can drive it. But if you have to give the car a long range, let's say Tesla's long range version, it will always have an NMC pack. Why? Because you need to pack in more.
Yeah.
Scooters almost always NMC. Unless and until LFP prices crash, which they have right now, to such an extent that it starts making a lot more economic sense to make the scooter a little heavier, but give them an LFP pack because the cost is lower.
Yeah.
I don't see one battery chemistry dominating, at
Okay.
least for the next 2-3 years. It will be a flux. There will be new chemistries that will come in. As I said, for each use case, there will be a different chemistry.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot more innovation that's happening. So who knows, 6 months from now, we'll be talking of a very different battery chemistry.
Yeah.
As a BAS player, we want to be very agnostic of battery chemistries. BAS as a business is when you're providing battery as a service, it shouldn't depend on the chemistry. It should just depend on the economics of the battery. चार्जेस
Yeah.
कर देने हैं पूरी दुनिया में, वैसा नहीं है. If you move to an EV, why would you move?
What are the various challenges you think that the EV segment as a whole is facing?
That's one major advantage that China has.
Is there any advantage that India holds?
That's the biggest challenge for any leader.
What advice do you have, for all our viewers and all the youngsters who want to make it big?
I think first and foremost is